Hello and welcome to the Michael Harding podcast. We're in November. We're at the portal of Samhain, the Celtic festival, when we enter into the completeness of winter and think about realms different from the realm we are in. How do we enter this territory? How do we enter November? How do we enter the darkness? There's a way we externalize this. On the surface, we make rituals. As the evenings get longer, we light a candle. We place the candle in the window. We feel content and cozy. We have a light against the darkness. But those are rituals or metaphors for what happens inside. In the heart, we also have to go to the dark land of winter betimes, what someone once called the swamp land of the soul. We have to go down into the dark. And it's not an easy place to go. Whether it's for a short period of depression or illness, or for a more extended period as we come to the end of life. We all have to go to the winterland. And it's normal that we all hope for springtime. Per tenebras ad lucem, hope that through the darkness we will find light. How do I go into this darkness of November, in this time of COVID? I go with the extraordinary words of St. Patrick's breastplate. It's a funny word, breastplate. Never knew what it meant. Armour. The armour with which you go into battle is your breastplate. St. Patrick goes into battle, into the darkness, with the armour of his breastplate. What is that? I can't really say the Irish words very well. A tumre genu njort train, togaram trindoch, fastin indatat, in nullemandail. Only by love do I bind myself to anything. I love you, you love me. You love your beloved, I love my beloved. I love my children, you love your children. We love our parents. We love the strangers because they are human. The only thing that gives me protection, the only thing that makes me human, the only thing that makes me awake is love. I will call upon this truth. Why? Well, in Celtic Christian Ireland, the Trinity is God. The Trinity is best expressed, I think, in Rublev's great icon, the three figures at the table. And there's a sense of flow in their bodies, a flow and a giving and a receiving. There is this flow, this relationality, that the nature of God is relationship. The nature of God is I let go of everything in my own ego to be awake to the energy of the beloved, and she or he to me. Kind of a great swirling, giving and taking of love is Trinity. And this is the strong name of God. It's to say that underneath everything there is nothing but God. And so I invoke the name, I invoke Trinity. I say the three in one, the one in three. I bind it to me. I unify myself with all being. Atomri in junior train, togaran trintoid, fascin, in Geata de nulemanai. I bind to myself today, through the virtue of faith, out of my own experience of love, the name Trinity, the name relationality, as the foundation of all being, and I invoke it, one in three, three in one. There is my quantum physics of faith. And then let me be more specific. This relationality, this love that transcends death. I bind to myself today the virtue of love in obedience of the angels. I bind to myself today the power of heaven, the light of the sun, the brightness of the moon, the splendor of fire, the flashing of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of sea, the stability of earth, the compactness of rock. Atomri inju njortnim, salshigrenje, etrot dieski, ani henot, deni lochat, luhi goya, sodam nimara, Tashmegitalam, Kabshdialyok, Atomri and Junior Dedom Lumarakt. So the Lurak Fodrik, the deer's cry, are the words in which I step into winter. The words in which I step into the dark, the words in which I step into November. I bind myself today through the strong virtue of love, the strong name of the Trinity, by invocation of the same, the three in one, one in three. The word God is only a word, but underneath it is the realm of being here at present. The presence that is in you that watches you. The presence by which you awake to know who you are in the moment that you are knowing you are here. The presence that knows your beloved through the eyes that you have in your head, as you look at the beloved and feel your heart opening in compassion and love to your beloved. This sense of being here now is a sense that humanity is not an individual journey, but actually a collective experience, and that this sense of consciousness actually allows that which is in you to be not just aware of your own self or ego, but the other one standing in the room with you, and to engage with that person's presence. To kiss and be kissed by the beloved, because the beloved in his or herself is only a manifestation again of the entire universe coming towards you. All space, all time, all history, everything collecting in this one moment being a kind of a nuclear explosion of consciousness. that shatters every template of history and space and time and meaning, and allows you to dissolve in the presence. Call that God. Going into the darkness of winter is what we do in Samhain. Seasonally, we're simply stepping over a threshold into when the darkness is everywhere, the daylight is very short, and it's cold, and there is no growth, and all things die, and the leaves fall from the trees. And so in all this space, it becomes a metaphor in itself for the withering that is in our heart as we age, as we die, or as we get sad and depressed and go into swamplands of the soul every so often, now and then in life, maybe through bereavement or grief or illness. We all go through periodic places of darkness. And in the end, we all face the complete darkness of mortality and death. So that the wonderful thing about Samhain, this portal into winter, into the land of the dead, the land where all things are dead, the wonderful thing about it is a poetry for what goes on in the journey of our own psyche. And in that regard, the focus of Celtic mythology on trees, and trees as places that are habitations of spirits, trees that are in themselves things that let go of all their leaf and then in the springtime we know will come back again and be born again. We walk in the land of the dead, believing that the dead are not dead, but that they have gone to rest, that they are resting in God, and that in some great realm of being, nobody is lost, and nothing is lost, all is transformed. So if you can think that way about Samhain, as the door into this land of darkness and winter, and yet allow yourself to believe that in that journey, when you walk around in that November deadness, you walk with the souls of your ancestors, you walk with the souls of your loved ones. They are still beside us, still with us. Because this deadness is not the end. The deeper truth is that this now, this being here now, is an infinite consciousness that gathers us all up and does not let us go. Join me as I pray my favorite prayer in Christian terms for this time of year, St. Patrick's breastplate. You are there. I am here. And there is a presence in you which is what looks through your eyes and listens with your ears. You are aware of yourself. I am here, and the presence looks through me and hears through my ears. It's the one presence we belong in. And I use the words of this prayer like metaphors, like poetry, like things we can cling to as we float on the great ocean of consciousness. I'll speak the words for both of us. I bind to myself today, through the strong virtue of love, the strong name of the Trinity, by invocation of the same, the three in one, one in three. I bind to myself today, through the virtue of faith, the incarnation of Christ, his crucifixion, burial, resurrection, and ascension. I bind to myself today the virtue of love in the seraphim, in obedience of the angels, in hope of resurrection to reward, in prayers of patriarchs, in predictions of prophets, in preaching of apostles, in faith of confessors, in purity of virgin souls, in deeds of righteous humanity. I bind to myself today the power of heaven, the light of the sun, the brightness of the moon, the splendor of fire, the flashing of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of sea, the stability of earth, the compactness of rock. I bind to myself today God's power to guide, God's might to uphold, God's wisdom to teach, God's eye to watch over me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to give me speech, God's hand to guide me, God's way to lie before me, God's shield to protect me. Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right hand, Christ on my left hand, Christ where I lie, Christ where I sit, Christ where I arise, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in the eye of every man who sees me, Christ in the ears of every woman who hears me. I bind to myself, through a mighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through belief in the three-ness, through confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation.